Good evening, friends. We are about to start with the session. Mr. Jain is joining the session shortly. Amongst us, meanwhile, we have all the speakers are of immense knowledge. Today, we are happy to share. Amongst the participants, we have Justice Kuldeep Singh, a former judge of Punjab Haryana High Court, and Mr. P.K. Malhotra, the law secretary from the center. Till Mr. Jain joins us, we would like to have their insights as to how the anti-defection law or the election law is evolving with the flux of time, and what is their take, though Mr. Jain would be giving us the insights. As we all know, those who have been practicing in Punjab Haryana High Court, Mr. Jain is not only known for his knowledge in the election law, and he has been recognized as one of the best lawyers in the field of election law for Punjab Haryana High Court as well as in the different high courts. Because of his expertise, we had asked him to give his insights on the election law of India. And now in the second part, we can say part 2, that we have the anti-defection law in India. It becomes more relevant in the given time. As we have seen, of late, there are charges of defection, horse trading, etc. And whether such law could be, is there the shifting like this? Is there any breach of the law? What are the insights? For those who know, are joining for the platform for the first time or for their introduction, we are just explaining that Mr. Satpal Jain is a senior advocate and presently the Additional Solicitor General of India and the former member of the Parliament. He had been elected on the Lok Sabha seat. Mr. Jain is a graduate from Punjab University and he had been a dean of this alma mater Chandigarh. And he is a lawyer known for his knowledge and practice in the myriad fields of law. And he had been a member of the 21st Law Commission of India. And as and when you meet Mr. Jain, there's always something to learn, not only of law, but as what has to be gained on a field of personal affairs. Like on the last session when Mr. Jain came, we had asked his son, Mr. Dheeraj Jain. He told that as a lawyer and otherwise also, there are many things to be learned. And while we are moving in the corridors, not only of the High Court, but normally in Chandigarh also, it is always pleasure catching up because his insights to the subjects of law, as well as on the other fields, are always of immense knowledge and help to everyone, one and all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invite. As we were discussing on the platform, to the effect that anti-defection law has become a law which every time we feel that there is a defection or there is a scope for defection, all the social medias, TV and the print, they all go gaga as to whether there is a breach. Especially this topic has become relevant more in the wake of what happened in Madhya Pradesh and now in Rajasthan. What are the parameters or what is the Lakshman Rekha that there is no anti-defection clause rigged up, or whether he has actually breached that? For all those insights, let's have the person, the man of the moment, to give the insights to all of us. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invite. And it is always pleasure connecting to you on a platform like this, as well as when we meet personally to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vikas. I am really grateful to you and your entire team for giving me an opportunity once again to interact with you on a very important aspect of the Indian Constitution, which occasionally come in the limelight because of the development in any state, because of any people going from this side to that side, or any crisis in any state. It is the anti-defection law. As a matter of fact, it is 10th schedule to the Constitution of India, which comes into limelight, and then articles written in the newspapers, discussions held. What is this? How is this? Why is this? What is the remedy of this? I'm grateful to you for inviting me to interact with all of you, and especially I'm noticing my old friend Mr. P.K. Malhotra, former Law Secretary, Government of India, Honorable Justice Kuldeep Singh, I have just noticed, is also present, and many other friends, colleagues who are going to interact on this issue. The 10th schedule, which is ordinarily called as the anti-defection law, actually it is 10th schedule to the Constitution of India, which was added by 52nd Amendment in 1985. What happened was, the first general election in India were held in 1952, Vidhan Sabha, 52, 57, 62. Up to these three general elections, Congress party used to get comfortable majority in almost all the states, as well as in the Lok Sabha. And because of that, because it was controlling most of the Vidhan Sabha, so it could get very easily the majority of Rajya Sabha also. 1967 for the first time saw the defeat of the Congress in many Vidhan Sabhas, state assemblies. Though it could get majority in Lok Sabha, but the situation in various states was different. Like Punjab, there were total 104 seats. 52 was the magic number required for forming the government, and the Congress could get only 48. Other 56 seats going to other political parties. Though Congress could not get majority, but in almost all these states, no other party could also get majority. So a new trend started in 67, forming of the Sanyukt Vidhayak Dal, meaning thereby joint legislature party, Sanyukt Vidhayak Dals, and they started forming the government. Now this led to the MLAs going from this side to that side to become minister, to get power and all that. And 1967 this trend started, though defections had been taking place earlier, but they were not to that large extent which could take the notice of the system. Now in 67 in Haryana, governments were changed. Rabrinder Singh, Pandit Bhagwat Dayal Sharma, Chaudhry, later on Chaudhry Bansi Lal came. There was one MLA whose name was Mr. Gaya Lal. There was a need for both the political parties to form the government, to remain in power. They started luring the MLAs from this side to that side. Many considerations were there. But he was one person who changed his party in a day. Some people say 3 times a day. Some people said 6 times in a day. Some people even go to this extent that he changed his party, defected from one party to another 9 times in one day. Mr. Chauhan was the finance minister in Lok Sabha at that time. And when this was discussed in parliament, he used this word that actually, matter of fact, Mr. Gayaram is not the Gayaram. It is Ayaram Gayaram. And from there, this term, Ayarams and Gayarams, started for the political defectors. Things continue. People started going here and there. 71 elections. Lok Sabha elections, Mrs. Indira Gandhi got very comfortable majority in Lok Sabha. Vidhan Sabhas also, 72, she got almost that. 77 came the trend of the Janata Party. After the winning Lok Sabha election, they formed governments. But after 77 again, in 1980, when the Lok Sabha was dissolved and Srimati Indira Gandhi won the election of Lok Sabha by a very thumping majority after the fall of the Janata government, again Haryana created another history. Chaudhary Bhajanlal was the Chief Minister of Haryana on the ticket of the Janata Party. And when Mrs. Gandhi became the Prime Minister of India, and it was known that she is going to dissolve most of the Vidhan Sabhas and will be going for the fresh Vidhan Sabha election, that she did. Punjab, Himachal, many other states, the assemblies, 11 assemblies were dissolved, state assemblies were dissolved, and the elections were held afresh. The another extreme example of political defection was again from Haryana, when the then Chief Minister of a particular political party, along with 40-45 MLAs out of 90, 40-45 MLAs led by the Chief Minister and the entire cabinet, changed sides from Janata Party to the Congress. And in a day, the government of the Janata Party became the government of the Congress Party. And I remember those Congress MLAs, old friends, how surprised they were. They were in anger, they were astonished, but nobody could do anything because there was no such law. So what happened then, one after the other, somewhere it was the Congress Party which was the victim, somewhere it was the Janata Party where it was the victim of these defections, somewhere it was the leftists, whatever it is. So a new trend, a new thinking came in Indian politicians, in the Indian polity, that let's have a law. What is this? People coming on one party ticket, joining other party, leaving that party also, going to third party. And then it necessitated the distribution of power also to as many people as could be sufficient to form the government. You might recall at a later stage when Kalyan Singh formed the government in UP at one stage. So out of the required strength of 212 to form the government at that time, he had to induct 100 members as a minister. 100 ministers, because otherwise they will go. And there was a very famous joke going on later also, at that time also, that even the chief minister could not recognize his council of ministers because it was so large that sometimes he will forget as to the person sitting in front of him, whether he's a minister or he's somebody else. That was the extent of defections going here and there. Then various committees were formed. Mr. Lal Krishna Advani, Mr. Dinesh Goswami, were many people who were of the view that we should do something and enact a law. Committee was formed, it was examined, and ultimately this 10th schedule to the Constitution of India, which is called as the Anti-Defection Law, was added to the Indian Constitution in 1985. It provided for, it's very short 3-page schedule, the annexure, having about 8 paragraphs, just 8 paragraphs, but very important and very vital. Now, what was the intention of the anti-defection law? The intention of the anti-defection law was that those people who are elected to Vidhan Sabha or Lok Sabha should remain as such till the tenure of the House. Paragraph 2 of the 10th schedule says that, subject to the provision of 405, a member elected on the ticket of a political party, there are 3 conditions because of which an MLA can be disqualified under the anti-defection law. It banned the crossing of party by the MLAs from one to the another and imposed 3 conditions. What were those conditions? Independent MLAs elected as independent. If the independent MLA joins any political party whatsoever, he will be disqualified from being the membership of the House. So meaning thereby independent will have to remain independent till the tenure of the House. Though he could support any government, because he is independent, but he cannot join the political party. That is one condition. Second, for the people who are elected on the ticket of the political party, what were the 2 disqualifications? Number 1, if you voluntarily gives up your membership of the House, of the political party on whose ticket you were elected. You are elected on the ticket of the BJP. There are some differences you having with the BJP. If you resign from the BJP, if you voluntarily gives the membership of the BJP, then you are disqualified from being a member of the House. Meaning thereby, if you are elected on the ticket of a political party, either remain with that party, and if you want to go from the party, you have to go from the House also. Second, somebody may not resign from the party. Somebody may not leave the membership of the party. Still, could he be disqualified otherwise also? Yes. Suppose any member of the assembly or parliament, Vidhan Sabha, two things he does. Number one, he violates and votes against the whip issued by the party. There is a whip on no confidence motion. There is a whip on particular enactment. You are going to enact a law, CCA, whatever it is, abolition of 370, 35 and all that. If you vote against the whip of the party on whose ticket you were elected, you can be disqualified from the membership of the party. For example, the party says this budget has to be passed. You must be reading in the newspaper, 3-line whip issued, 2-line whip issued, 1-line whip issued. The MPs, MLAs are bound to obey the whip of the party. When party says you have to vote in this direction, a member is bound to vote in that direction. If he doesn't vote, he can be disqualified. He will be disqualified. Third, there may be a situation where some of the members, there is a whip issued by the party. You don't want to comply with that whip. You don't want to follow the whip because of certain reasons, genuine or otherwise. You may vote, you may not vote, or you may abstain from voting. So this also was added in paragraph 2 to 1B, saying in case any member of any political party, member mean MLA, MP, if he abstains from voting against the whip issued by the party, then again he will be disqualified from the membership of the house. Otherwise, what would have happened? Even if the whip is issued, you don't vote at all. Party may have brought some legislation, it will fall. It will be an embarrassment for the party. You can say, no, I never voted against the whip, so I don't incur the disqualification. This was also added, that if you abstain from voting or you vote against the whip, in both the situations you will be disqualified. So three things. Most of the people I can notice on my screen are the advocates. I have been saying in very simple words that 10th scheduled expected all MPs, all MLAs to maintain the status quo of their political affiliation of the day when they were elected to the house. If you are elected on a ticket of a political party, remain there. If you are independent, remain independent. This was the intention of that. It came in 1985. It was challenged in Punjab. There is a full bench of Punjab Haryana High Court. Sardar Prakash Singh Badal versus the Union of India is a full bench. It voted somewhere in 87 or 88, full bench of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, where the validity of this act was upheld. This was a majority judgment. Out of 5 judges, 3 were on the one side and 2 judges on the other side. The argument against this bill was, which was rejected by the full bench and later on rejected by the Supreme Court also in Pihoto Holomon's case in 1992. An argument was given that this imposes a unreasonable restriction on the working, on the rights of an MP and a MLA. He represents the constituency. He has a right to say whatever he wants to say. Interest of his constituency may be different than the interest of the political party that he is representing. Now, I give an example. For example, in UP, there is a demand. Allahabad people say we should have a separate high court. Perhaps the Ghaziabad or some other place, they say we should have a separate high court. So the MLAs belonging to the same political party from these two areas may face difficulty. Which way we have to go? If you go with the party, your constituency people may be annoyed. And if you go with the constituency people, your party may be annoyed, may face an embarrassing position. This was challenged. And after a long arguments, I remember late Mr. D.D. Thakur, Mr. Arun Jaitley came to argue the matter. I got the chance to hear arguments in the full bench, before the honorable full bench. And ultimately, full bench upheld the validity and saying, no, when you are elected to the house, you are elected not only in your individual capacity, you are elected as a candidate put up by your own political party also. People not only vote for the candidate, people vote for the party also. And I give an example. In 2014 and 2019, the people of the country by and large voted for Shri Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister of India. So it was not a simple vote to any person, candidate, howsoever big or small he or she may be. Then no, people have voted me twice or once. So I'm a very, his or her contribution is also there. I'm not denying that. But primarily people vote for the policies and leadership of Shri Narendra Modi. In 96 and 99, 80 and 99, people voted for Mr. Vajpayee to be the Prime Minister of India. In 1977, people wanted to oust Mrs. Indira Gandhi because of the emergency. So though they voted for the Janata Party in the name of Shri Jayaprakash Narayan. And same people in 1980 again, when there were differences within the Janata Party, they voted for Mrs. Gandhi again in 1980. 85 again, they voted for the Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, Mrs. Indira Gandhi's name and all that. So I am saying this was the full bench argument. So therefore, you have to strike a balance between the two. An MLA, MP may say whatever he wants to say in the discussion. There is no bar. If you say something in the discussion, it's no reason to disqualify you. But if you vote or you leave the party, then it can be disqualified. So this is three condition where you can be disqualified. How to save your membership? The constitution makers, the committee which was constituted to deliberate upon the anti-defection law. Now they said that there may be difference of opinion between the party two groups. Some people may say we don't agree with you. If you give this power to the leadership, then it can lead to dictatorship of the party leadership also. They will suppress the minority view always. Then it was decided paragraph 3 was added. What was that? Paragraph 3 was that suppose there is a split in the political parties and 1/3 of the people say no, MLAs or MPs say no, we don't go with the main political party, we will not like to have this, we are going away because we don't agree with your policy, then it will be justified. They will not be disqualified. This clause was there in para 3. This was found later on that look here, what is happening? There may not be any genuine differences. There may not be any difference of opinion. But simply because you want to go other side, you want to get certain benefit. A party has only 6 MLAs, 2 or 1/3. They will go away and say, no, there is a split in the party. So it was a worst situation for the smaller parties. And in this country, every party is a major party in some state and a minor party in other state. In the Northeast, almost the entire Northeast, both the BJP and the Congress may not be the major parties. And UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, Delhi, somewhere Congress is the major political party, somewhere the BJP is the major political party. So then it was thought, deliberated again. And 2004, when Mr. Arun Jaitley became the Law Minister of India, again this was deliberated upon and it was decided that this should be dropped. No question of 1/3. This is we call it Mori Gate, Chor Darwaja for the MLAs to go for defection, therefore stop it. Then this paragraph was dropped by the 91st Amendment in 2003. So this 1/3 business went away. Then there was another issue. For example, some party may say we want to merge with the other party. There can be certain situations. In many states, we have seen one political party because of certain reason says we are merging with the another political party. Then paragraph 4 visualized that what to do in that situation. It is not the fault of the MPs and the MLAs. Their own party is merging with the other party. Can they be disqualified for becoming the member of the new party? Then again, the question came, maybe that some of the MLAs or the MPs feel, no, we have not to go the other way. We want to remain with the same party. Then paragraph 4 was added, where 3 conditions were laid down. How and when the membership of the MLAs will be saved in case they are their party is merging with the other party. Number 1, the original political party means the party on whose ticket they were elected. If that party decides to merge with the other political party. I give an example. For example, there is a regional party in a particular state. They say, no, we will now like to merge with the BJP or the Congress. And therefore, why to have the regional party, we will join the main state. So first condition is the original party must merge. Second, then comes the legislature party. Then this paragraph said certain thing that 2/3 of the MLAs, meaning thereby if there are 100 MLAs, at least 66 MLAs should accept that merger. 2/3 of the MLAs accept that merger, and third, they accept it and they are not less than 2/3 of the total strength, then they will be saved from the disqualification on the ground that they were elected on the ticket of some other party. Now they have become the member of any other political party. This was the 3 things that were visualized at the time of merger. But what happened now? In certain states, people know how to find out loopholes. They will not bother about the original political party. You have 6 MLAs, 4 says we can merge the party with the other party. In Haryana, our statehood, people know the matter came right up to High Court and Supreme Court. In 2009 Vidhan Sabha elections, 6 members were elected on the ticket of the Haryana Janit Congress, Mr. Kuldeep Bishnoi. Bhupinder Singh Hooda was the chief minister. They were having very thin majority, not having comfortable majority. So 5 out of these 6 MLAs decided to merge the Haryana Janit Congress with the Congress party. Same day application given to the speaker, same day accepted, and they became the members of the Congress party. Had they not gone to the Congress government could not have been stabilized in the state of Haryana. So this was challenge. I was representing Mr. Kuldeep Bishnoi before the speaker, before the High Court, Supreme Court, everywhere. So we filed the petition, though it was a long drawn battle. Ultimately, I was successful in getting a verdict from the learned single judge of the Punjab Haryana High Court, Justice Kannan, who heard these arguments and ultimately decided that, look here, unless the original political party merges with the other political party, simply seated 2-3 MLAs cannot merge their party. They cannot merge their party in the another political party. That was the argument, and this was accepted. And after the acceptance of this, ultimately, though it took 5 years to get them disqualified, they were disqualified, but by that time the new elections have come, and I am surprised out of them now. Mr. Kuldeep Bishnoi himself has gone to Congress. Those MLAs, some of them have gone to BJP, some of them have gone to the Congress. Similarly, in Punjab, at particular time, 4 MLAs were elected on the ticket of the BJP. Out of them, 2 went and joined Sardar Beyant Singh's cabinet. And then ultimately, we filed a petition. It is the Madan Mohan Mittal versus the Speaker Vidhan Sabha. Similarly, in Haryana, Ram Vilas Sharma versus the Speaker Haryana Vidhan Sabha. We were able to get them disqualified on the same principle. Now, a question comes. About, with all respect, I am saying, the forum which decide the disqualifications. Constitution is very clear. 10th schedule is very clear. There is no ambiguity in the constitutional, in the 10th draft. With respect, I will be saying that. Now, this power was when the deliberations were going on in Parliament and Parliamentary Committee. The question was whether this power of disqualification should be given to the Election Commission or to the High Court or to the Speaker, which forum should be given. Ultimately, unanimously, all decided that this power should be given to the Speaker because of 2 reasons. Number 1, Speaker is the person who is watching the performance of the MLAs on the floor of the House whenever the House is in session. So he knows which member is doing what is his intention, what is his behavior. Second was that Speaker doesn't have much judicial work. If we give this power to the High Court, we have seen the election petitions. RP Act says decide within 6 months. But 6 months, even the written statement, etc., is not filed. In our High Court, there are petitions pending for the last 12 years, more than 12 years. One election petition against Captain Amarinder Singh is pending even today of the last assembly election. So this was decided, give this power to the Honorable Speaker. The power was given to the Speaker. Now the again problem started here. With respect to all the speakers, what is happening? The Speaker will not act in a true sense as a Kushai judicial authority. He will by and large go with the mandate of his political party. If the defection suits the political party, he will not decide for a long time. If it doesn't suit, he will like to decide within 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. That trend continued. Now, this also raised the serious issues about the neutrality, impartiality of the Honorable Speaker. And we have seen during these times, over the years, that in different cases, the speakers have behaved differently. I talked to you about Haryana Janit Congress case. The Haryana Janit Congress case, 2009 were the elections. The Honorable Speaker was not deciding the petition. Mr. Kuldeep Bishnoi went to High Court, single judge, double bench, Supreme Court, and ultimately the disqualification petition was decided on the last day, which was fixed by the Supreme Court, and it was said, no, it's a merger of the party, which was reversed by the ultimately High Court. This happened in other cases also. In Uttar Pradesh, there was a dispute whether 13 is 1/3 of 39 or not or the MLA's total number of people. At that time, it was the issue of split, whether it is 1/3 or not. The speaker did not decide for years together. And in certain situations, the speaker will decide within 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. So now the issue has come whether this power should remain with the speaker or not, because they are not acting independently and not acting quasi judicially. When the judicial power is vested in any person, he has to rise above. अपना प्राया, अपने प्राय से ऊपर उठ को आपको फैसला करना होता है. That is the basic difference between a judicial decision and an administrative decision. Though even on administrative side, you are supposed to act independently, objectively, but when you take a judicial decision, तकड़ी जब हाथ में आती है कि दोनों पक्ष बराबर होने चाहिए, that is the role of the speaker, but he is not performing that. Rajasthan people were talking, nowadays it is in discussion. Now see, two extreme example from the same speaker from the same state. 6 MLAs of the BSP who were elected on the ticket of the Bahujan Samaj Party, they decided to merge the BSP in the Congress last year October, and the speaker accepted their merger, recognized them as the members of the Congress party. Bahujan Party has not merged. Bahujan Samaj Party remains a national party also, state party also. They do not claim that the Bahujan Samaj Party has merged, but simply on the ground that we are more than 2/3, therefore accept us. October it is accepted. Speaker recognizes them the same day. All right, now you become the members of the Congress. Some information is sought, he doesn't give. Then in March, a disqualification petition is filed before the same speaker, saying that these all 6 MLAs are liable to be disqualified like the MLAs of the Haryana Janit Congress in Haryana, because they were elected on the ticket of the Bahujan Samaj Party. Bahujan Party remains. It has not merged. These MLAs have defected practically from Bahujan Samaj Party to Congress, disqualified them. Till date, the speaker did not take any notice of that application, did not issue even the notices to the 6 BSP MLAs, who later on became Congress MLAs. On the other hand, when on 17th or 18th of July, Congress moved a petition before the speaker against Mr. Sachin Pilot and 19 MLAs for their disqualification, though I will deal this issue a little later. The speaker same day issued notice to them and say file the reply within 3 days, against which they have gone to the High Court, and High Court has granted them the stay. Same speaker, same state, 2 disqualification petition, 1 notice within 3 days, in another no action even within 4 months, 5 months. So therefore, the issue which has arisen now in a number of judgments also, in the parliamentary debate also, why not to take away this power of deciding disqualification petition, withdraw it from the speaker, give it to an independent authority, maybe election commission, maybe High Court tribunal, maybe High Court judges. This is the now line which is coming, which is the new trend which is coming in the politics. Now Rajasthan has raised Mr. Harish Salve and Mr. Mukul Rohtgi while arguing the case of Mr. Sachin Pilot. They have raised a new, they have given a new dimension to the anti-defection law, and they have raised a new argument which ultimately there's no judgment. Some judgment will have to be pronounced on that. The only ground on which the disqualification of Mr. Sachin Pilot and 18 MLAs is being sought is that you did not attend the meeting of the Congress Legislature Party. You did not come to attend their meetings. You said certain things against the Chief Minister. They did not vote on the floor of the House. They did not do anything on the floor of the House. They did not violate any whip. Now the question that Mr. Harish Salve and Mr. Mukul Rohtgi have raised in those petitions is this: is criticizing your party or seeking a change of leadership within the party, can you invoke the provisions of the anti-defection law? And to some extent they are right. The anti-defection law 3 conditions of disqualification are voting against the whip, abstaining, and if you are independent, you can't join any political party. So now the Supreme Court is going to hear that case tomorrow. Rajasthan High Court is also hearing it. That under the garb of the anti-defection law, you cannot suppress the voice of the minority group also. So long as you don't cross the Lakshman Rekha, you are demanding the change in the leadership, that is your democratic right. For example, within the Congress party, I give an example, there are 100 MLAs. You have imposed a leader, he will be your chief minister, people accepted it. If 51 out of the 100 want to change the leadership, they say, no, not Mr. Ashok Gehlot. I'm giving an example, or any A, B, C or C. No, we majority doesn't want him to be the leader. We want that fellow to be elected as the leader. in my view, it doesn't attract the provisions of the anti-defection law. Within your own party, you can change the leadership. You can seek a change in the leadership. But anyhow, this issue has been raised now by the petitioners, Mr. Sachin Pilot, which is going to be pronounced by the Speaker and the Supreme Court and the High Court. Now about the merger of the party. Some people say no, 2/3 MLAs can merge. I gave an example when I was arguing the case of the Haryana Janata Congress before the Honorable Supreme Court. I say, Lordship, permit me to give an example. Congress party is a national party. Its working committee, former Prime Minister, some were Chief Ministers, leader, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, all a full network of the party. Bharatiya Janata Party, a national party. The Prime Minister is there, Home Minister is there, party president, parties, ministers, cabinet, different state chief ministers. Suppose in Northeast, where these parties don't have large number of people, there is then one MLA of the BJP or of the Congress in any Northeast state. He is 100%. Can he go and say, no, I have decided to merge my party with the another political party? So I said, maybe the Congress party, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi and all that in Delhi, or maybe BJP, Shri Nadda ji, Mr. Prime Minister Modi ji, Amit Shah ji and all that. They're all sitting in Delhi running the party, but this one MLA, because he's 100%, can he say, no, I have merged my party with the other party? No, that is not that is not the concept of the anti-defection law. So therefore, on this issue, now Rajasthan is going to pronounce. That is also hearing the case tomorrow. Haryana Janata Congress case has already come, and this issue will be ultimately going to the Speaker in a very few days. Now, sir, Kihoto Holohon, after Speaker's order said, on what grounds you can challenge the order of the Speaker? Because paragraph 7 said that the bar, that the ruling of the Speaker is final. We said no. Ruling is not final. It is subject to the judicial review, but it can be challenged only on 3 grounds. Perversity, if it is perverse, if it is against the principles of natural justice, or it is in the violation of the principles of natural justice, or it is patent on the face of it, it is against the provisions of law. These are the 2-3 grounds on which it could be challenged. That was the law laid down in Kihoto Holohon. Now, coming on thereafter, lot of discussion has been going on. Lot of discussion has gone in various forums, parliament also, that now please think of having another forum where an independent and judicial decision could be taken. In Indian Constitution, there are 2 articles, Article 102 and Article 191. Article 102 deals with the qualification and disqualification of the MPs, and Article 191 deals with the disqualification of the MLAs. Now, for example, an issue arises whether any member is eligible to be members of the House or not, whether he is holding any office of profit or he has incurred any other disqualification. Under the Constitution, the petition will go in the case of the MLAs to the Governor, and in the case of MPs to the President of India. And the President and the Governor will refer that matter to the Election Commission. It is the Election Commission which will hear both the parties, decide the issue, and then send his report to the President or the Governor, as the case may be. You must have seen in the case of Aam Aadmi Party MLAs in Delhi, there was some dispute whether they have incurred some disqualification on the ground of holding office of profit. This matter ultimately, they filed a petition before the Honorable President. President sent it to the Election Commission, and then the Election Commission recommendation came. In other states also this has been there. And you might recall a very, very glaring example. When Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, they made Shrimati Indira Gandhi as the chairperson of the National Security Council, which was newly constituted at that time. Now, this was the office of profit. I remember I had gone to Delhi to file a petition before the Honorable President, but then she ultimately resigned and she recontested election from there to save the disqualification. So, if the point which I am making is this, if other disqualifications under Article 102 and 191, if they can go to the President and the Governor and ultimately the Election Commission takes a decision, I think time has come when this power should be taken away from the Speaker, given either to the Election Commission of India or to the others. Now, another reason for why the speakers are now not behaving as per up to the mark. One is, I don't want to comment on the personality of any speaker, but it has been observed over the years that earlier, whenever somebody is elected as the speaker, he will resign from the party on whose ticket he is elected. And during the post of the speakership, he will remain neutral. And this anti-defection law recognizes that. It says that if a person, after having been elected as the speaker, resigns from his political party, he will not be disqualified under the anti-defection law. That is the clause in the 10th schedule. But after Somnath Chatterjee became the speaker, with all respect to him, he is no more, very learned man. He did not resign from his party. And now this trend has come. And these things have gone even to that worst, that though speaker enjoys a constitutional position, very high position, it's a tribunal, Supreme Court says, when it decides petition under the 10th schedule, still speakers do not resign from the party on whose ticket they are elected. And not only that, they attend even some of the speakers even to day-to-day activities of the party, which they are not supposed to do. So the argument is that if the speaker continues to be a party of the same member of the same party against whom the disqualification petition has been filed, how do you expect him to do justice? And it is said justice should not only be done, but seems to be done also. In my view, the time has come when this alternative forum has to be thought of. Second is the time. Speakers don't decide for years together, for months together. In Sri Venkaiah Naidu, in one of the cases which came before him as a chairman of the Rajya Sabha, he decided those cases within 4 months. And Justice Punchi in Srimati Mayawati's case in 1996, therefore Kuldeep Bishnoi's case, the Supreme Court said it again and again, please decide within time. Now in Manipur's case, the Honorable Supreme Court gave 1 month's time to the Speaker to decide those petitions which were pending for a very long time. And when they were not decided, the Supreme Court said, now we discharge them and passed an order against those MLAs. But what I'm saying is this, time has come to 3 things. Number 1, power should be given to independent authority. Number 2, it should be made time bound, and it should be not be allowed to linger on for months and years together to frustrate the purpose. So seriously it was taken that after this, when it was thought that people are still changing sides, Article 361B was also added. What is that article? That article says that if you are disqualified from the membership of the House, and I may clarify here, disqualification doesn't mean that you are disqualified for 6 years from contesting election. Disqualification in 10th schedule means your membership will come to an end. You will cease to be a member from the day when you incur the disqualification. That's all. You can recontest. You can recontest in the same election from the same constituency. And that is why Article 361B was added, which said any person disqualified from the membership of the House on the anti-defection law, on the violation of the 10th schedule, shall not be eligible for any remunerative post, any post, parliamentary secretary, minister, chairman, etc., till he is re-elected to the membership of the House or till the tenure of the House. So that this was the rigor of the action that was taken. Though in many cases, people who were disqualified, they contest, sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't come back. But this was the seriousness which was addressed. So I am just going to conclude. I have taken about 35 minutes to give you a broad eye view of the anti-defection law by concluding 2-3 things. Number 1, intention of this law must be followed, and that has to be done by the legislators in true intent and spirit. Number 2, Speaker's powers should be, it should have a review of the anti-defection law. Time has come to relook at that. Power should be taken away from the Speaker, given to some independent authority, maybe election commission, maybe some tribunal of retired judges, sitting judges, High Court, Supreme Court, and time bound, that you will decide within this much time, 4 months, 6 months, because all the parties, they are beneficiary in one state, they may be the victim in the another state. They may be the victim in one state, maybe the another in the other state of this same rigmarole, which is there going on there. So there is a time, and there has to be a national consensus. And I remember that in most of the cases, if you go Kyoto Holohon, the number of defections have been narrated there. In many other cases, all aspects have been dealt with. Independents joining a party, independent joining a government, all those things are there, because the political life is like a running water. ये चलता हुआ नदी का पानी है, सामाजिक जीवन, राजनीतिक जीवन, ये चलता हुआ नदी का पानी है, इसको चलते रहना है. और चलते रहने में ही इसमें सुधार आने। The final chapter of Indian political history or judicial history or parliamentary history has not been written. It is yet to be written. When it will be written, only God knows. We have to go on with the time, with the passage of time. Amendments have to be brought to make it working, more fruitful, and more meaningful. This has to be ultimately taken to that extent. I think I have given you broad ideas of the so-called anti-defection law, which is in fact the 10th schedule of the Constitution of India. Let us work. And I have been conclude by saying, whatever the law, whatever the prisons of law, ultimately success lies in the awareness among the people. If people are aware of the law, those who violate, they will follow it. They know it very well that if I do it, I will be running I will be suffering like anything. People will not like me. People will not forgive me. People will not excuse me. So that awareness in the society has to be created, so that if a person leaves a party and joins the other party because of something in violation, then some things should follow and awareness should be created. There should be a national debate on this issue. And after national debate, let's evolve the new law. Let's have the new suggestions, new amendments to make it more workable. Thank you very much. I would like to reply to any question or any query if you want to have any on the issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The topic, the way it was seemingly, as you said, there has always been a challenge, not only for the speaker, but also to the judges and the lawyers. Whenever there is some shuffling here and there, what you said, the Aya Gaya Ram, and the way you actually introduced the topic as to why the concept of Aya Ram, Gaya Ram was there, because in Haryana, they was always says, it is Aya Ram, Gaya Ram. And rightly said by your good self that old order changes, yielding place to new. That's what we say. And your perception that there are certain requirements of the law and suggestions, since there is large audience, not only on the platform as well as on the Facebook. As they say, the trigger point of discussions can always lead to greater changes in the society. As you said at the time of the start of the session, we have Mr. P.K. Malhotra, who has been the Law Secretary, and Justice Kuldeep Singh. We will also have the insights from him. Meanwhile, the participants, those who are watching us live on the Facebook, as well as on the platform, they can start posting the questions. Mr. Jain has kindly consented to share his knowledge. So much so, we will ask Mr. Malhotra and Mr. Kuldeep Singh, Justice Kuldeep Singh, to the effect that they can also pitch in their opinions, because as they say, two heads are always better than one. But here is a case, we have one is a keynote speaker and the other persons, they show that humility at their command, because they have joined us voluntarily, but we know their inputs would be as good as what Mr. Jain would be giving.
May I say one thing? Out of the three, seen from the anti-defection law, one will be 1/3, two will be 2/3, and three will be 100%.
They say that it is always, one may disagree to disagree, but one cannot disagree with the opinions of a well-learned person. One would always appreciate.
Both are very learned. Very learned.
So the only beauty in law is that, to the effect that one can disagree with his opponent while he is arguing within the court, but heart within heart, one always appreciates the fact that he is knowledgeable and his insights are always appreciated. Sometimes one learns this art also as to how to argue, how to make the submissions. Malhotra sir, what is your take after having the insightful sessions and peep in on this where Mr. Jain has given to us?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vikas, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. First, I must compliment you that in this particular session, you thought of inviting Mr. S.P. Jain for such an important topic, which is a burning topic. And in the past also, so many rulings have come from different courts, more particularly the judgment given by the Supreme Court, clarifying some of the doubts which were prevalent in the mind of the people who really rule the country under the provision of the 10th schedule. And in his own inimical style, Mr. Jain has, I'll say, putting Gagar mein Sagar. This is what he has done. The anti-defection law on which so much has been said, and every day so many problems are coming before us, which are discussed on the national platform as well as among the legal fraternity. He has put it in such a simple word that not only the law-knowing person, but even a common man can also understand. Thank you, Mr. Jain, for putting it in such a comfortable and convenient way. Now, I think almost all the important issues which are even now under debate, either in the Rajasthan High Court or in the Supreme Court, he has flagged those issues very intelligently and not commenting to the extent that knowing fully well that either the High Court of Rajasthan or the Supreme Court will be coming out with certain judgments. But the point which he has made are very valid. One is with regard to the independent authority to decide the issues under the anti-defection law instead of the speaker. Now, I hold there is another view also. The other view is, of course, Justice Rohinton in his recent judgment has said that there should be an independent body, maybe the Election Commission or the tribunal to decide these disputes. But as Mr. Jain himself has very rightly pointed out, when the law was incorporated in the 10th schedule, it was well thought of law, and it was thought that if you are deciding a disqualification of a member, why not to give the power to the Speaker of the House? Because ultimately what is happening inside the House, it is the Speaker who is the ultimate authority. Why this problem has arisen, as Mr. Jain himself has highlighted, because either the timeline mentioned in the 10th schedule itself, that the dispute should preferably be decided within 6 months, has not been adhered to by the Supreme Court. And he was referring to Mr. Jaitley. I have got highest regard for Mr. Jaitley. And in many of the parliamentary debates, Mr. Jaitley has said, whenever timelines are laid down for quasi-judicial and judicial authorities, it is said that they are not mandatory, they are directory. But whenever timelines are laid down for the executive, you normally say that they are mandatory. I think that kind of distinction must go. And if the Speaker is exercising his power in accordance with the spirit in which the law has been made, I don't see why you need a separate authority or a tribunal. It is not that if you constitute a tribunal, the tribunal will be deciding within 6 months, as is happening, or whatever the interpretation has been given by the Supreme Court in the past with regard to deciding this issue. Because then you will say, suppose if the Election Commission or the tribunal is not deciding within 6 months, what happens? Again, you are back to square one. So I think the system needed to be strengthened, and it is the intention with which the law is made. If you are implementing it in that spirit, I don't see there will be any difficulty. Very rightly, Mr. Jain has also said about the issue which is before the Rajasthan High Court now, in which Sachin Pilot has gone before the Rajasthan High Court. I think that is a territory which is untraveled. But as a student of law, I personally agree with the view expressed by Mr. Jain that if you are talking of the party autonomy, and yes, if suppose instead of Mr. Sachin Pilot having 20 or 30 MLAs with him and asking for a change in the leadership, if there would have been, say, more, then what happens? Because who elects the leader of the House? It is the majority party MLAs, and they decide who is the leader of the House. But unfortunately, what is happening that in our country, it is the top leadership which gives a suggestion, and generally those suggestions are accepted by the party MLAs, and the leader is elected, and that is why this kind of situation arises. Anyhow, let us not go into that debate, because that is still before the court, and let us see how the court react to that. And then, of course, the one point which I would like to highlight, and I would like to have views of Mr. Jain on that, is with regard to the approach of the judiciary to handle this kind of matter, more particularly the recent developments which have taken place. Now, there are certain situations which call for immediate solution or immediate decision. In case those are also delayed for whatever reason, can we say that the judiciary is discharging the duty which it is supposed to discharge in such a time of crisis? I think that's a very important issue which has arisen in the present setup. If the Rajasthan High Court was required to decide a dispute which was raised by the Sachin Pilot, and learned counsels have given their arguments, and the legal position as a student of law, what we understand, yes, I mean, when it is a constitutional issue, you can't simply stuck to the literal interpretation. You have to go much beyond it and you have to see the aim and objective for which the legislation is laid down, and that is how the law is developed. And we always say that when it is a question of interpretation of the Constitution, we have always given credit to our judiciary, that our judiciary is vibrant in deciding all such issues. But the situation which has today arisen and the approach which we have recently seen from the Supreme Court and the High Court, don't you think that an expeditious decision was required so that the people of the state doesn't suffer? I think that is one point on which I would like to have further views of Mr. Jain. Of course, so far as other points are concerned, which he has raised, I am entirely in agreement with him. The law is developing, and in anti-defection law also, if certain changes is required, let there be a national debate on that, whether it should remain with the tribunal, whether it should remain with the speaker, or there should be an independent body, or it should be given to the election commission, who on the, power should remain with the governor or with the president, who on the advice given by the election commission will take a final call on the anti-defection of law as it is being done in case of disqualification of a member under Article 120, 102 and 191. Thank you very much.
So the way you have presented, that's what at the first brush I said, that though we had Mr. Jain speaking, but the insightful insights what you have given in a short time, it was just like what we used to have a rapid fire questions. And the same way you have given the rapid fire insights to a topic which is only vast. We'll ask Justice Kuldeep Singh, since who's a former judge of Punjab Haryana High Court, what is his take on this anti-defection law and what are the changes which are required? Because it says a thought can become your habit and a habit can change the entire scenario. Over to you, Justice Kuldeep Singh. Okay. So it's not audible. Sir, speaker. So you will have to raise the volume on your laptop or your iPad. It's not audible. At least I am not able to hear it. I can ask on the chat box. Is he audible? Jain Sahab, till then I will ask a question. Sir, if a change is made in the 10th schedule, that membership will be automatically terminated the moment he falls in any of the three categories. What is your take on this? This is by Srinivas Mulguri.
No, it's not practically possible now. Who will determine? Somebody will have to declare that today onward you cease to be a member. There has to be a notification issued by the Vidhan Sabha that Mr. So-and-so ceases to be a member. Can't be automatic. Somebody will have to declare, some notification has to be issued. Can't be, it's not something that you cut a tree and the branch will fall on the ground. He's an MLA, his notification is issued, he has taken oath. So if you say that now today onwards you cease to be a member, some notification has to be issued, somebody has to pass an order, otherwise we'll go and challenge in the High Court. Any judicial forum we will challenge. It's not practically possible.
So we will try with Justice Kuldeep Singh. So probably he's trying for that. So this is by Abid Khan. Article 122, court is not to inquire into the proceedings of a parliament, and Article 212, court is not to inquire into the proceedings of a legislature. Then why in these times the courts are intervening in crisis of the states?
See, these two articles were considered in Kyoto Holohan also and other cases also. The Supreme Court has held that when you deal with the anti-defection law, then the speaker acts like a tribunal, not only the head of the legislature. And since he is acting like a tribunal, therefore, these are the proceedings before him in his capacity as the tribunal. And these are not the proceedings within the House, Article 212 and 121. This has been held by the courts long time back. Proceeding within the House would be no confidence motion when it is moved, who member will sit where, who will speak first, which bill will be introduced. These are the proceedings within the House. But when he considers the anti-defection law and a petition for disqualification, he is acting like a tribunal, and therefore he is controlled under 226 and 227 by the courts also. His order is that way challengeable there. These are not the proceedings within the House It has already been upheld by the Supreme Court long time back.
Justice Kuldeep Singh has joined us. Yes, sir. So again, that audibility problem is there. So meanwhile, I can take a question from on the Facebook. Mr. Satish Panchal has said, how do you see the case in the case of Sachin Pilot? Kindly comment on the role of a speaker in such a like situation. How do you say, would I take a step further? Would you say that speaker, while deciding such matters, could it be said that the principles, like there are two basic principles under law, that nobody can be judged in its own case, number one, and justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. So how do these two principles at the time of considering the case under the anti-defection law is considered, and what is the paradigm shift within the constitutional judgments so far?
See, so far as the Constitution and the Supreme Court is concerned, Kyoto Hollow on onwards, Prakash Singh Badal's case, 1987, Punjab and Haryana, full bench. The courts, the Constitution, the judicial propriety, they expect the speaker to act like a Kusai judicial authority, independently, objectively. With all respect to the Speaker of the Honorable Rajasthan Vidhan Sabha, I gave two examples in the very beginning also. There are two disqualification petitions before him. One filed by Madan Dilawar on 16th of March, of which he has not taken any notice. He has also gone to the High Court, and that petition is listed for hearing tomorrow. On the other hand, another petition filed by the Chief Whip of the Congress Party, filed on 17th, same day notice issued, asked them to respond within 3 days. I think this itself speaks of the mindset of the Honorable Speaker. It would have been a different matter. If you say both the petitions are there, I'm issuing notice in both the cases, let them file, I will take the decision objectively. Number two, in B.S. Yedurappa's case, 2010, Justice Altmas Kabir and Justice, I'm extremely sorry, I remember the name of the other judge. Kurian Joseph, earlier Kurian Joseph, not the later Kurian Joseph, but two judges with the same name, both very distinguished judges. He said that the speaker must follow the principles of natural justice, give reasonable time to the MLAs to have their point of view. Here is the case where the speaker said, notice issued today, within 3 days come, and other, if you don't come, don't say your point of view, I will disqualify you. This is violation of the principles of natural justice. In Yedurappa's case, the order of the speaker was set aside only on this point alone. There are two extremes. One, you don't want to decide for years together because it suits your party. There are other cases when you want to decide within 2-3 days because it suits your party. The attempt of the speakers have been to save their own party, whether decide early or decide later. In the Rajasthan, with all respect to the Honorable Speaker, I'm not saying anything against the individual, but the total action raises many doubts, eyebrows about the functioning of the Speaker in Rajasthan Vidhan Sabha. And Sachin Pilot, to my mind, is right when he says, look here, I have not crossed the party. I have not left the party. I am only demanding a change within my party. I may be in minority. How does I suffer a disqualification under the anti-defection law? The notice by the speaker, I agree with Harish Salve and Mukul Rohatgi, is without any application of mine.
Sir, according to you, now probably Justice Kuldeep Singh is again trying for that. Sir, could you try that? No, sir, that's again difficulty. So what is, according to you, if we ask Jain Sahab, and we can also unmute Mr. Malhotra, meanwhile, Justice Kuldeep Singh will try that. We would just like to ask, what is, according to you, the Lakshman Rekha between the anti-defection law, where you fall on the wrong side of the law and where you can protect yourself within the parameters of still raising your voice, but still within the party, but everyone knows what you want to say.
Simple. If you leave the party on whose ticket you were elected, if you vote against the party mandate, if you resign from the party, then you have crossed the Lakshman Rekha. But if you remain within the party, but differ with the policies of the party, say I don't like this, without voting against the party on the floor of the house, without violating the whip, without violating the mandate issued by the party, I think that is the Lakshman Rekha. Within this side, you are outside the anti-defection law. The moment you vote against the party, the moment you cross you violate the mandate and the whip of the party, you go that side of the Lakshman Rekha. That is my perception of the anti-defection law.
So I've been just, I'm telling Justice Kuldeep Singh, it says, kindly request him to on phone for audio instead of the mobile. You can try to log in through the mobile phone. Justice Kuldeep Singh, that is the insight I've just received from the Dheeraj, because he's also watching you and everyone wants to be enriched for your knowledge. So one has asked, and it is also one of the issues, since I have seen that you have been taking these issues. How do you define the office of profit, and what is that, again, that subtle difference that which office of profit actually counts and which doesn't count, so that you are not on the wrong side of the law while you are held that you are holding the office of profit? Because we have seen sometimes just you do not understand the nitty-gritties of the office of profit, and you take that particular office with an endeavor that you are going to contribute towards the society in the right way. But because that office turns to be an office of profit, and suddenly you find that you are on the wrong side.
This question has been put by my friend Mr. Vikas Pandey from Allahabad. I think he has put this question. Office of profit I will describe in a very simple manner. MPs and MLAs are to legislate. They are supposed to work independently, without any pressure, without any allurement, without any consideration of any other sort. So it was expected that they will not hold any office of profit under any state government or central government, so long as they are MLAs and MPs, so that they can act truly freely, without any pressure or without any apprehension of that sort on their minds. Office of profit is an office which, number one, the appointment is by the government. There are certain benefits to which you are entitled, like your PA, TADA, you're staying in the guest houses, car, etc., etc., etc. You are entitled for that. And the control, basically removing appointment, is with the government. Basically, this is there. Now the law has gone a step further. You are appointed to a post where there are certain benefits that you are getting. You are appointed the chairman of some board. You get the koti also, you get the house also, you get the car also, you get the staff also. Somebody says, no, I will not get anything. Simply appoint me the chairman. Neither I will get salary of the chairman, nor I will get PA and all that. The court has gone into a next step further, Shibu Soren's case, that even if you don't get any benefit, but you are entitled for that. You are entitled for the benefits. You are not getting the benefits, will not make any difference. If you are entitled for the benefits, you are holding the office of profit, but must be under the state government. For the post of president, this office of profit is not only under the state government only, it is under any local authority or any other forum. So the intention is that the person should be free from all sorts of pressures, demands, etc., so that he can work independently.
Mr. Arvind Seth has meanwhile posted a question. No, Madhav Singhal has said, probably it could be Lokesh also, but if it is Madhav, kudos to Madhav. In Khato Holang, the Supreme Court has upheld the validity of the 10th schedule, but the Rajasthan High Court has agreed to hear the case on the question of validity of para of 10th schedule. Don't you think that the Supreme Court judgment to that extent is binding on the Haryana High Court? And it should not have agreed to hear on that particular aspect. What is your take on that?
You see, Heto Holohon and Prakash Singh Badal, full bench of Punjab and Haryana High Court, Heto Holohon by the Supreme Court was basically on the legislative competence, whether you can enact the law or not, whether it puts unreasonable restriction on the rights of the MPs, MLAs, etc., was there. Heto Holohon, the validity was upheld, but one clause which said the order passed by the speaker is final was struck down, saying that it is open to the judicial review. Now, Mr. Harish Salve and Mr. Mukul Rohtgi and Mr. Sachin Pilot have raised a new argument, which will be needing consideration, which has not been dealt with earlier. As Mr. Malhotra said, this issue is totally a grey area coming for the first time. They said that this disqualification clause, if extended to this extent, that can the dissent within the party, can the demand of change of leadership within the party without crossing the party, does the anti-defection law visualize that also? And they said that if that is the intention, the speaker is saying that you're saying not coming to the meeting of the party, you're demanding change in the leadership amounts to anti-defection law, then they have challenged it on this ground. This is the new issue on which there is no judgment so far. It is there in the Rajasthan High Court, and the Honorable Speaker has himself gone to Supreme Court. So the issue which was there in the High Court has been taken to Supreme Court also. So therefore, this angle is a new angle. It needs examination.
Mr. Vikas, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Now it's perfect.
Okay.
You have shown a classic case that they say where there is a will, there is a way. Though
Correct.
they also in the lighter vein and the joke sides, they say that in fact, where there is a will, there are relatives also. Yes, sir.
That's what I'm going to say. You know, Vikas, Mr. Jain, and others. Mr. Jain, it is very pleasant to hear you after such a long time. So, so it is very useful, very informative. So what is said about Indian law is that we have got one of the best legislations in the world, but a poor implementation record. The problem is that of a just what the Vikas said, where there is a will, there is a way. That will is missing. So the problem is of a national character. You may take one institution, say speaker, say election commission, say president, say judiciary. So everywhere there is a problem. So suppose if we take this power from the speaker and give it to the election commission, and you know how the election commissions are appointed by the ruling party, and you will see that recently when Aam Aadmi Party case was taken to the president and president decided the same within few hours, the question was raised whether he was able to read the report of the election commission in such a short time. So the problem lies within ourselves. So if the speaker is impartial, there is no problem with the present system. So if he is not working properly, we take it to the election commission, then the problem will remain the same, whether the election commission is impartial. And if we take to the president, whether the president will toe the line of the ruling party or he will take independent stand. So if it goes to the court, so you will find whether there are some board judges who can take a decision or they just try to avoid it, just adjourning the cases. So my suggestion is that it is depends upon we have to, every person, they say speaker, everybody comes from us, from our society. The problem is of national character. So we have to find a solution to this, that whoever is invested with the powers to take a decision should decide it independently. For that, a larger discussion is required because we have to ensure that that person acts impartially and acts quickly also. So far as quickness is concerned, even you see the various courts, right from the lower court to the Supreme Court, are being accused of delaying the matters for years. There are some video clips that matter is not decided for years and that matter is decided within few days. So we have to find a solution somewhere in ourselves, not within this. By changing the law, we will find nothing. We take this from speaker to the election commission. You see how the election commission works. Who are those persons? Whether they are impartial persons are appointed to the election commission, and whether the other institution to which the case is sent are impartial enough. So I think the answer is within ourselves. We have to find out a way out, and for that larger discussion is required. Of course, I agree with you that this has to be stopped. The law has to prevail, and if somebody leaves the party, crosses the floor or something like that, then he has to be disqualified. But yes, some criticism or dissent within the party, it can't be taken to be taken to that extent that he has left the party. So that's my opinion.
So, that in every way we say that as long as there is a healthy discussion.
I will seek the views of Mr. Jain, but other alternatives possible because all the institutions are under fire, right from the speaker up to the all the systems and the courts also.
Yes. So this is an interesting question.
Mr.
Yes,
Vikas, the
Yes,
laws are definitely made always with good intention. It is only when we start twisting the laws to suit our individual requirements, then only I think all these problem arise. I think Justice Jaspal Singh has also rightly said it, if you follow the intention of the law, if you implement the law in the spirit in which it is enacted, I think most of the problems can be solved. But when we start twisting the law to suit our requirement or what we actually thinking, it is only then the problem arises. And that is why, I mean, even in the anti-defection law also, and Mr. Jain also said it was made with very good intention. It's a very good law which we have made. And it has stopped the practice of ayaram, gayaram, which started in the early days when the governments, I think, were falling very quickly. After that, the stability has come into the government. And now at least the political parties can carry forward their agendas with confidence because they have the support of their own MLAs and they can't quit the parties without following the norm laid down here. But as I said earlier also, I think you gave power to any institution. If the intention of the institution itself is doubtful, only then the question of implementation of the law comes into problem. Otherwise, I think even, I mean, as I said, our judiciary is also very vibrant. The way judiciary has interpreted the law, Hono case, I think is still it has laid down the law, and if that is followed in right spirit, most of the problems which we are facing today can be resolved. I think we would like to hear Mr. Jain on this issue also, because already he has spoken on this, but maybe if he can further supplement with his views on this particular aspect.
So we will, before that, the point is well taken. Arvind Seth asks why the provision of disqualification was added in the constitution when already there is a Representation of the People Act.
The Representation of the People Act deals with the elections of the MPs and the MLAs. There are two Representation of People Act with the same name. 1950, Representation of People Act 1950, Representation of People Act 1951. Representation of People Act 1950 deals with the registration of votes only, and Representation of People Act 1951, read with the conduct of election rules, deals with the holding of the elections to Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. So those are the provisions which deal with the elections. The anti-defection law deals with your conduct after the election. If after electing you change your party, go from this party to that party, that is the conduct which is governed by the anti-defection law 10 schedule. When you contest the election, then how to behave, corrupt practice not to be committed, this thing to be done, not to be done. That is the subject matter under the Representation of People Act 1951.
I'm reminded that the way you had informed us how the name came of Ayaram and Gayaram. In fact, I was reading one of the articles. It said that now it is no longer Ayaram, Gayaram. It is now Ayadal, Gayadal, because the entire a party breaks up and does it. And meanwhile, Harihar asks, can Speaker challenge his own order? He's saying more particularly like what in Rajasthan it has happened. Because he is a tribunal, according to you, in a not stricto sensu, but he's acting as an adjudicatory authority. As to whether there is any provision where the adjudicatory authority can take the plea itself.
No, the Speaker cannot review his own order. Once he passes an order, then the order is final. He cannot power review. This has been held by the courts. After passing of the order, Speaker has no power to review his own order also. Ordinarily, no notice can be issued to the Speaker under Article 361 for anything done by him. But if the Speaker of his own choose to go to the court and High Court or the Supreme Court, like the Rajasthan Speaker has done, so that is a different thing. And one issue is pending from Telangana, Vijay Kumar or Vikas Kumar, I'm forgetting the name of the petitioner, before the Supreme Court to examine whether the Supreme Court can issue a writ of mandamus to the Speaker to decide a case in a particular manner, decide a case in a time-bound manner. This issue has already been referred to a constitution bench. This issue is there. Two things: Speaker cannot review his own order. There cannot be any notice issued to the Speaker by the High Court or the Supreme Court in his capacity as the Speaker. But it can be in the capacity as a tribunal deciding cases under the anti-defection law. That is the law.
So this is not totally the question which is being put across by Pankaj Chaturvedi, but if you can actually give the insights, because invariably we don't take the questions outside the topic, but it is related with the Office of Profit. But I know that because you have dealt that Office of Profit while appearing. If admittedly a minister holds an office of profit which is challenged before the High Court that be declared disqualified under Article 191 of the Constitution during the High Court proceedings, government exempts that particular body out of the office of profit by giving retrospective effect by issuing an ordinance later on. Same was approved by the legislation made under law. What would be the effect in such like circumstances?
See, Parliament gives power to Lok Sabha. The Constitution gives power to Lok Sabha in the case of MPs and to the Vidhan Sabha in the case of MLAs to exempt certain officers from the purview of the office of profit. This power is given by the Constitution. So, in case the Parliament, Lok Sabha decide that these officers will not be termed to be officers of profit, or Vidhan Sabha decides that these officers will not be treated to be officers of profit, they have the competence to do it. Supreme Court has already decided this issue and says it is within the competence of the Parliament and the Vidhan Sabha to declare certain officers as to be out of the purview of the office of profit.
Thank you, sir. We have taken the questions. And the only point which boils down is that they say that the power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. But once the party feels or the person feels that he has to defect, he will find a law as to how there is. And people like you, invariably, they are approached, as you said, Mr. Harish Salve, and they have given a different peek into the law, because they say that a good lawyer would always think out of the box. Out of the box means to the effect that where he can actually come out with an argument or a submission, which invariably in a common parlance or a lawyer would not be able to think. They say normal person will think with a two-dimensional view, but he will think with a three-dimensional process of thought and will give a different dimension to the thought process of law. And in a lighter vein, after all this anti-defection law, I feel I was just seeing that Dheeraj is also chipped in, though he's not fully in the stream. According to you, that if there has to be success in the politics, one has to have Dheeraj and also one has to have Satya. As they say, truth always wins. And truth with the Dheeraj would always do. Again, we will ask Dheeraj, after a period of after the period of around 2 months of these webinars, earlier it was seminars, earlier it was on the legal perspective. Now I've been seeing that you have been helping him around, in and around, to give the different perspectives. While working with him and during the webinars, what is the different take which you have learned from him, which you never realized that this particular aspect, because in a webinar, you are very, very close to a person with whom you are assisting in the right perspective. So,
वो सारा मैं ही उनसे गाइडेंस लेता हूँ, वही तैयार करते हैं सारा. मैं तो I am only a loudspeaker. He is the main speaker there. वही करते हैं सारा वो तो.
According to you, he acts like a gramophone, which earlier we used to have the pen at the right point, and then the gramophone.
यही तैयार करते हैं, स्टडी करते हैं, सारा ब्रीफ करते हैं. बैठे-बैठे भी कोई पॉइंट रह जाए तो कान में मेरे बता देते हैं कि इसमें ये एक्ट है, ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है. Anyhow, so
yeah.
So, I just want to add one thing, that जब सत्य और धीरज इकट्ठे होते हैं तो फिर विकास आता है.
और प्रेम भी आता है. प्रेम भी आता है.
So Dheeraj, what you have learned, a different facet of your father while doing these webinars, which you could not have in the ordinary parlance, because during these webinars, one comes more closer in a relationship. What actually you have learned, this particular aspect you never knew about your father. We actually want that people should on the platform and on the Facebook should know that this is the insight. Yes, this is one particular part of Mr. Jain, which everyone never knew. So, राज की कुंजी आज थोड़ी बता दें.
Sir, with technology, sir, everything now is online. Right from my daughter, everything is now, all activities are being held online. One thing that we learn from this is that, sir, you have to adapt very fast to the upcoming technologies. Like my father, now it's a very regular feature. All court hearings are being held through webinars. All interactions are being held through webinars. And about 6 months back, nobody could have thought that this is the level that technology will come up, and everyday working will change in such a manner. So what the bottom line is, sir, that you have to adapt according to the new technologies, new challenges that come your way. And not only, sir, in your profession, not only in your interactions, but this is the essence of life, that you have to keep adapting, keep evolving, and keep adjusting to what is happening around you. You see new things, you pick up how best to use those things. And this is what, sir, law is about. This is what legal profession is about. This is what judiciary is about. That you keep looking at new things, you keep adapting, and you keep inculcating all those things in you. And so this is a change I've seen. I've never seen him use the computer in his entire life, what he's done in the last 2 months. And how things are now changing. Now we are in our profession, when we argue cases before the court. So the entire setup of the court is here. The screen is the Supreme Court, the screen is the High Court, the screen is the District Court, and this screen could be your friend, who can't come to meet you, but you can talk to him on the screen now. This screen is the kitty parties that are going on. The screen is the school for our children. So everything can come down to this small screen, and this is what the at least next 6 months or 1 year would be. But I think this trend will continue from here. There may be a day, maybe a time very soon, where during summer vacation, instead of closing the High Court totally, we have video conferencing going on for that 1 month of June. So this is what I have learned, what I have seen in my father, that he is adapting to everything new and with the same vigor that he probably did when he started practice.
That gives not only the encouragement, Dheeraj, to you, but it also gives to us. They say that it's all in the mind. They say that you can be tired physically, but if you're mentally active and you want to learn something, you can always learn. And as you said, that this is a platform where we can connect with anyone. During this time of social distancing, I was just watching that large number of friends. Friends are all, obviously, now we have connected with so many people on these webinars. So in this endeavor, now with the flux of time, we have started changing the password to the number of meeting. So today was our 113th meeting, and we are happy to share that you have joined us on our 113th meeting. During this flux of time, we have seen that large number of friends have been connected. But from our High Court, to know about your insights, I was just looking into it. We have Mr. Rajiv Sharma, Arun Gosai, Arvind Seth, then Pramod Sharma, Padamkant Dwivedi. To all the apologies to all the friends from outside this High Court. I'm just taking leverage. Asim Agarwal, Mukesh Kaushik, then Ashish Rawal, Sunil Kumar, Vidhi, Sonia Sharma, Gaurav Pathak, Sushil Bhardwaj, Sanjay Vishisht, Arvind Rujotia, Namit Kumar, Rajiv Quatra, Alka Chatrat, Vikram Bajaj, Namit Kumar, Alok Jain, Geeta Sharma, Vikas Sharma, Vijay Kalia, Manoj, Punita Sethi, Vinay, Mahesh Desai, Shivoy Dheer, Pravesh Saini, and so on and so on. Amanjot Sidhu, Bandeep Kaur. So it only shows the immense people, just Rajiv Quatra. And my apologies to any of the friends from the Prar High Court who I've just missed it, because as they say, there are large number of people to just, I'm just learning that art of dabbling within the keyboard and the mouse. If I could have skipped somebody's name, apologies. And all those friends who have joined beyond Punjab and Haryana High Court, we are all too pleased and too enamored for the fact that you have stayed connected with us during these testing times. As they say, tough times do not last, tough people do. And we all believe that we all Indians are tough within our heart and our minds. And therefore, I'm quite sacrosanct to the effect that we will, during these tough times, since we are tough mentally and physically, we will have a different India for future, and that will be always bright. As they say that every sunset has every sunrise, and sunrise always looks pleasant after the dark days. So I'm quite sure, and Mr. Malhotra, Justice Kuldeep Singh, and Mr. Satpal Jain would endorse to the fact that the vigor of the Indians to come out of the dark days has always been better. Over to you, Jain Saab, and thank you everyone who have stayed connected with us. Before we go on, tomorrow in our pursuit to this webinar, we will have amongst us Mrinalini Deshmukh, advocate, who is known lawyer for family law. Just to give a gist of the cases which she has handled this, she will give us the insights on the family law. She has been a lawyer for Amir Khan and Reena Datta, Krishna Kapoor, Hrithik Roshan, Suzanne Khan, Mahesh Bhayapati, Riya Pillai, Leander Pace, Aditya Chopra, Karan Johar. So I am quite sure that the insights, she will also give us the insights as to whether there are differences in the higher strata of the society or the lower strata. What is the way to connect, whether one should divorce if you are rich or whether you are financially independent. These insights she will give. Do stay connected with us at 4 p.m. Over to Jain Saab for your last words of wisdom for this session.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका। सभी हमारे माननीय मेंबर्स ने, श्री पी.के. मल्होत्रा जी ने, जस्टिस जसपाल सिंह जी ने बहुत रेलेवेंट क्वेश्चन उठाए हैं और उन्होंने तो आखिर में कहा कि लॉ कितना भी अच्छा हो, जब तक उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने वाले उनकी इंटेंशन ठीक नहीं होगी, नेशनल करेक्टर नहीं होगा। जैसा हमने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा, वो सभी कानूनों के बारे में है। कानून तो बना दिया गया क्या था कि कोई कत्ल नहीं करेगा, फिर भी लोग कत्ल करते हैं, फिर भी लोगों को सजा होती है। कानून के मुताबिक तो चोरी नहीं करेंगे, लेकिन फिर भी लोग करते हैं। इसलिए जो मैंने कहा, ये नेशनल अवेयरनेस बहुत जरूरी होती है। नेशनल इंटेंट, नेशनल प्रोटेस्ट, नेशनल पनिशमेंट एक तरह की बहुत आवश्यक होती है। जब निर्णय लोग अपना देते हैं, जब अपनी बात लोग सुनाते हैं, और जो लोग गेम प्ले कर रहे हैं, जब उनको डर होता है कि मेरा पब्लिक में रिएक्शन क्या होगा, पब्लिक मेरे को क्या करेगी, तो वो भी एक अपने आप में बहुत डेटरेंट होता है। बाकी सर, मैंने कहा ये सारे इशू ऐसे हैं जिनमें कभी भी लास्ट चैप्टर आता नहीं है। एक्सपेरिमेंट चलते रहते हैं। पहले कोर्ट्स में एक पैटर्न होता था, दूसरा पैटर्न आ रहा, ट्रिब्यूनल आए, अब ट्रिब्यूनल का भी लगने लगा है कि शायद पूरी तरह से सक्सेसफुल नहीं है, उसमें भी सुजेशंस आ रहे हैं। पहले रिटेन डीबी सुनती थी, फिर सिंगल बेंच के गया, फिर लगा कि नहीं दोबारा डीबी को सुन लो और डीबी के पास ले जाओ। तो ये सारा प्रोसेस है, एवोल्यूशन जिसे हम साइंस में बोलते हैं, ये प्रोसेस चलता रहेगा। और लेकिन बस एक ही है कि ट्रेंड जो है वो इंप्रूवमेंट की तरफ हो, मूव तो करें, अपवर्ड मूव करें, हायर हायर एंड स्टिल हायर जाएं, ताकि जितनी भी इंप्रूवमेंट हो सकती है वो कर लें। चीजें तो लोग कई बार में को लोग बोल देते हैं कि राजनीति बहुत गंदी है, कई बार लोग कहते हैं। मैं उनको मजाक में कहता हूं कि महाभारत कितने साल पहले हुआ था, रामायण कितने साल पहले हुई थी, तब क्या राजनीति अच्छी थी? तब क्या अच्छी थी? या तो ये कहो ना कि उस समय तो बहुत अच्छी होती थी, अब खराब हो गई है। तो लेकिन चीजें चलते चलते धीरे धीरे इंप्रूव होती गई हैं, होती जा रही हैं, लोगों की अवेयरनेस के साथ और ज्यादा इंप्रूव होंगी। और ये जो इंटरेक्शन है, मैं बहुत इसको लाइक करता हूँ। डिस्कशन में बहुत सारी चीजें निकलती हैं, डिस्कशन में बहुत सारे सुजेशंस आते हैं, डिस्कशन में बहुत सारी नई चीजें आती हैं, और जो चीज आज आई है उसको अडॉप्ट करते करते 10 साल, 15 साल, 20 साल लग जाते हैं। ये एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ, आप जरा उसकी कभी इसकी स्टडी करिए, दिनेश गोस्वामी रिपोर्ट, और पता नहीं कितनी रिपोर्टें आ रही थी। मल्होत्रा साहब को पता है 15-20 साल लग गए थे इसको लॉ अनेक्ट करते करते। फिर पार्लियामेंट में आने के बाद भी ये अमेंडमेंट करो, ये अमेंडमेंट करो, वो करो, तब जाके आया। फिर 85 के बाद लगभग 20 साल लग गए पैरा 3 को डिलीट करते करते। अब ये मर्जर वाला इशू आया, मुझे लगता है 10 साल इसको भी लग जाएंगे किसी चीज को एंड में लेके जाते जाते। पर द प्रोसेस मस्ट गो ऑन, द शो मस्ट गो ऑन। और मैं आखिर में एक बात कह के जो आपको अपनी बात समाप्त कर रहा हूं कि सॉरी, जस्टिस कुलदीप सिंह जी, आई एम सॉरी, मैंने उनका नाम जस्टिस कुलदीप सिंह। मैं आखिर में सबको ये कहा करता हूं कि हिंदुस्तान के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में आर्टिकल 51 है, फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज, जो एनफोर्सिबल नहीं है। जस्टिस कुलदीप सिंह जानते हैं उस पर कोई रिट नहीं आ सकती है। वो उसकी एक सिटीजन की 11 ड्यूटीज हैं, 11 ड्यूटीज ऑफ एवरी सिटीजन। द 10th ड्यूटी इज टू स्ट्राइव फॉर अचीविंग एक्सेलेंस इन ऑल वॉक्स ऑफ लाइफ। तो चाहे फैमिली लाइफ है, चाहे जुडिशियल लाइफ है, चाहे एग्जीक्यूटिव है, चाहे आप व्यापार में हैं, चाहे चपरासी हैं, चाहे हाउस वाइफ हैं, जिसके भी जिंदगी के दौर से आप गुजर रहे हैं, उसमें टॉप पर जाना, ये आज भारत का संविधान ने हमारी फंडामेंटल ड्यूटी बनाई। इस ड्यूटी पर किसी के आदेश की जरूरत नहीं है, किसी को लेक्चर देने की जरूरत नहीं है। हम सब मिलकर अगर उसका पालन करें, सारा देश उसका पालन करे, तो बड़े आराम से देश हमारा हिंदुस्तान परम वैभव पर पहुंचेगा और आने वाले दौर में दुनिया का सबसे मजबूत, सबसे शक्तिशाली देश और सबसे अच्छी परंपराओं वाला देश बन के निकलेगा, मुझे पूरा विश्वास है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका।
Sir, since we were trying with Justice Kuldeep Singh, a few last 2 lines from Justice Kuldeep Singh on this entire efforts on your part.
I will just repeat whatever you said. Where there is a will, there is a way.
बिल्कुल,
अगर हमारे में इच्छा शक्ति है, हम करना चाहते हैं तो हम कर सकते हैं। लॉ तो पहले है, इट इज एवरीवेयर, ऑल काइंड ऑफ लॉज। अगर इच्छा शक्ति हमारे में लाने की, दैट इज द नेसेसिटी कि वी शुड हैव द विल पावर टू डू इट। और उसमें अपने आप को इंटेग्रिटी, इम्पार्शियलिटी आ जाएगी। रिजल्ट से नहीं डरना चाहिए कि ये रिजल्ट ये होगा वो होगा। जब हम वो रिजल्ट से डरते हैं तो तब प्रॉब्लम आती है कि हम डरपोक हो जाते हैं और हम अकॉर्डिंग टू लॉ भी नहीं डिसाइड कर पाते। चाहे वो कोई भी ऑफिस हो, इट शुड नॉट नेम एनी ऑफिस, बट कोई भी ऑफिस हो, उसमें जब ये प्रॉब्लम आती है तो इट मे बी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव, इट मे बी एग्जीक्यूटिव, जुडिशरी, एनीवेयर, और जब हम डेडिकेशन है, where there is a dedication toward the system, toward the society, then we can achieve everything. And once we have this spirit, we can go on the top. This is what Mr. Jain said. We can go on the top. We have the potentials. We have the best talent. We can go on the top. So for that, we have to work.
Thank you, sir. Just in the morning, I received a message, though we have been hearing. As a parting shot, I will say, ये दबदबा, ये हुकूमत, ये नशा, ये दौलतें, सब किराएदार हैं, घर बदलते रहेंगे. मुस्कुराहट, अपनापन, सरल स्वभाव, ये सब अपने हैं, इनसे ही सब फलते फूलते रहेंगे. So let's stay connected, maybe on the virtual platform, as what Dheeraj said, maybe for 6 months, 1 year. But as long as we are connected with each other, within the heart, that's more the way to move forward. Everyone stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you, everyone. Right, sir. And thank you, Jain Saab, Mr.
Thank you,
Malhotra, and Mr. Kuldeep Singh, and to all the participants, not only on this platform as well as on the Facebook, and those who will subsequently connect us on the YouTube. Everyone, thank you.